The discovery. The night everything changed. Dr. Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the clock showing 3:47 a.m. The Deep Space Observatory in Chile had been her second home for the past 8 years, but tonight felt different. Something was wrong with the data streaming across her multiple monitors. The Deep Space Scanning Array had detected anomalies at the edge of the solar system, far beyond Pluto's orbit. She adjusted the telescope's focus and ran the calculations again. The objects were massive, metallic, and moving in perfect formation toward Earth. Sarah's hands trembled as she counted them. 237 distinct signatures, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. The largest was nearly 20 kilometers long. "This can't be right," she whispered, running the diagnostic for the 4th time. Every test confirmed the same impossible truth. An alien fleet was approaching Earth, and based on their trajectory and speed, they would arrive in exactly 72 hours. Sarah picked up the secure phone that connected directly to the International Space Defense Council. Her voice shook as she spoke to the duty officer. "This is Dr. Chen at Atacama Deep Space. I need to speak with Director Hamilton immediately. We have a code black situation." 20 minutes later, her phone rang. Director Hamilton's voice was sharp and alert despite the early hour. "Sarah, what exactly are you seeing?" "A fleet, sir. Alien ships, moving in military formation directly toward Earth. ETA is 72 hours. She paused, taking a deep breath. "Sir, based on their size and formation pattern, this appears to be an invasion force." The silence on the other end lasted for several long seconds. "Are you absolutely certain?" "I've run every test, every diagnostic. This is real, Director. They're coming." The world responds. Within 6 hours, emergency meetings were taking place in every major capital on Earth. President Martins of the United States spoke directly with Chinese Premier Wu, Russian President Volkov, and European Union Chancellor Hoffmann. For the first time in decades, political differences were set aside in the face of an existential threat to humanity. General Marcus Webb, a veteran of 3 wars and currently head of the newly formed Earth Defense Initiative, stood before a room filled with the world's top military leaders. His gray hair and weathered face showed the strain of command, but his voice remained steady and strong. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have less than 60 hours to prepare for what may be the most significant military engagement in human history," he began, gesturing to the large screen showing Sarah's telescope data. "These ships are beyond anything in our current understanding of technology. They're traveling at speeds that should be impossible, and their energy signatures suggest power sources far beyond our capabilities." Colonel Maria Santos, representing the European Space Defense Force, raised her hand. "General, do we have any indication of their intentions? Have they attempted communication?" "That's the concerning part," Webb replied grimly. "We've been broadcasting on every frequency, using mathematical sequences, prime numbers, even music. Complete silence. They're not trying to communicate at all." Dr. James Park, a quantum physicist from MIT who had been brought in as a scientific advisor, leaned forward. "General, I've been analyzing the data Dr. Chen provided. These ships are using some form of quantum displacement for propulsion. The technology required suggests a civilization thousands of years ahead of us." Captain Lisa Torres of the Space Force, one of Earth's most experienced spacecraft pilots, studied the formation patterns on the screen. "Look at how they're arranged. That's a classic attack formation. 3 waves, with the largest ships in the center protected by smaller vessels. These aren't explorers or diplomats. They're conquerors." General Webb nodded grimly. "Which brings us to our defense options. Dr. Park, what can our current weapons do against ships of this size and apparent technology?" James Park looked uncomfortable. "Honestly, General, probably nothing. Our most advanced missiles might not even penetrate their shields, assuming they have any. We're essentially trying to fight jets with bow and arrows. Humanity's last stand. Despite the overwhelming technological disadvantage, Humanity refused to surrender without a fight. Every nuclear submarine was repositioned, every satellite weapon system was armed, and every military installation on Earth was placed on highest alert. The International Space Station was evacuated except for essential personnel who would serve as early warning observers. In major cities around the world, emergency broadcasts instructed civilians on evacuation procedures, though everyone knew there was nowhere to run. If Earth was to be conquered, it would happen whether people were in cities or countryside. Sarah remained at her observatory, now surrounded by military personnel and additional scientists. She had become the primary source of real-time intelligence on the approaching fleet. Her equipment had been upgraded with military-grade processors, and she was providing constant updates to command centers worldwide. "They're maintaining formation," she reported during an hourly briefing. "No deviation from their course. They'll reach Earth's outer orbital zone in 18 hours. Dr. Park had been working with a team of physicists to understand the alien propulsion system. "Sarah, are you detecting any communication between their ships?" She checked her instruments. "Actually, yes. There's a lot of chatter on frequencies we can't decode. But James, there's something else. In the last 6 hours, their formation has been getting tighter, more compressed." General Webb joined the conversation via video link from the Pentagon. "What does that mean tactically?" Captain Torres, who was now stationed at the observatory as military liaison, studied the data. In human naval warfare, ships compress formation when they're preparing for engagement or when they're concerned about external threats. Either they're getting ready to attack or they're worried about something else. "What could they possibly be worried about?" General Webb asked. "We're hardly a threat to them." Sarah continued monitoring as the hours passed. The alien fleet maintained its relentless approach toward Earth, but their behavior was becoming increasingly strange. The ships were broadcasting more frequently to each other, and their formation was shifting in ways that didn't match any known military tactics. The unexpected turn. With only 8 hours until the alien fleet reached Earth, Sarah noticed something that made her double-check her instruments. "General Webb, Captain Torres, you need to see this immediately." The command center fell silent as Sarah put her latest readings on the main screen. "The fleet is changing course. They're no longer headed directly for Earth." General Webb's voice crackled through the speakers. "Where are they going?" Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard, calculating trajectories. "Mars, sir. They're heading for Mars." The room erupted in confused conversations. Captain Torres leaned over Sarah's shoulder to verify the readings. "That makes no sense. Why would they go to Mars? There's nothing there but research stations and mining operations." Dr. Park was frantically checking his own calculations. "Sarah's right. They've altered course by approximately 15 degrees. At their current trajectory, they'll reach Mars in 36 hours. But they'll pass right by Earth," General Webb said, his voice filled with confusion. "Are they planning to use Mars as a staging area for attack?" Sarah continued tracking the fleet's movement. Over the next several hours, the alien ships maintained their new course toward Mars. Their communications increased dramatically, with signals passing back and forth between ships at an unprecedented rate. "It's like they're having an argument," Sarah observed, listening to the pattern of transmissions. The communication bursts are getting shorter and more frequent. As the alien fleet passed Earth's orbital zone without slowing or showing any interest in the planet, global military forces remained on high alert, unsure whether this was some kind of tactical maneuver or if Earth had somehow been spared. Arrival at Mars. The alien fleet reached Mars exactly when Sarah's calculations predicted. But instead of establishing orbit or beginning any kind of military operation, something extraordinary happened. The ships began behaving erratically. Sarah watched in amazement as the massive vessels scattered throughout Mars' orbital space. Some appeared to be scanning the planet. Others were moving in seemingly random patterns, and the largest ships simply stopped moving entirely. "General, you need to see this," Sarah called out urgently. "They're not acting like an invasion force anymore. They're acting like they're looking for something. Captain Torres studied the patterns, or like they're afraid of something. For 6 hours, the alien fleet remained in chaotic formation around Mars. Their communications were constant now, overlapping signals that suggested panic or extreme urgency. Then, as suddenly as they had arrived, something changed. One by one, the alien ships began to power down. Their energy signatures decreased rapidly, and their movement stopped entirely. Within 2 hours, the entire fleet had gone completely silent. "Sarah, are you sure your equipment is working correctly?" General Webb asked. She ran every diagnostic available. "All systems are functioning perfectly, General. The ships are still there, but they're completely inactive. No energy signatures, no communications, no movement at all." Dr. Park was studying the data from his quantum analysis equipment. It's as if they just turned off. All of them, simultaneously. The world waited for 3 days, but the alien fleet remained silent and motionless in Mars orbit. No explanation seemed to fit what they had observed. An invasion force had approached Earth, bypassed the planet entirely, traveled to Mars, and then simply stopped functioning. General Webb made the decision that would change everything. "We need to send a team to investigate. Captain Torres, prepare a mission to Mars. We need to find out what happened to those ships and why they came here in the first place." As Sarah continued her observations of the silent alien fleet, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just witnessed something far more significant than a failed invasion. Something had scared off beings with technology thousands of years ahead of Earth's. The question that terrified her was simple. If something could frighten them, what did that mean for humanity? The revelation. The investigation mission. Captain Lisa Torres had flown many dangerous missions in her 12-year career with the Space Force, but nothing had prepared her for this. The hastily assembled investigation team consisted of herself as pilot, Dr. James Park as the science officer, Dr. Sarah Chen as the communications and sensor specialist, and Lieutenant Commander David Kim as the security expert. Their ship, the ESS Endeavour, was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, though it felt primitive compared to the silent alien vessels they were approaching. The journey to Mars had taken them 6 weeks, during which the alien fleet remained completely inactive. Approaching the first vessel, Torres announced as they drew near to one of the smaller ships in the fleet. Even the smaller ships dwarfed their spacecraft by a factor of 50. "It's beautiful," she whispered despite herself. The alien vessel was unlike anything in human engineering. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, with curves and angles that hurt to look at directly. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with an inner light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Dr. Park checked his instruments. No energy readings at all. Whatever powered this thing is completely offline. Sarah was scanning communication frequencies. Still no signals from any of the ships. It's like they're all in some kind of suspended animation. Lieutenant Commander Kim studied the tactical displays. "Captain, I'm detecting atmosphere inside the ship. The hull integrity is perfect, but there are what appear to be docking ports along the lower section." Torres made the decision that would change everything. "We're going aboard. Sarah, can you interface with their docking systems?" After 2 hours of careful work, Sarah managed to establish a connection between the Endeavour and the alien ship. The docking port opened with a sound like singing crystal, revealing an airlock that adjusted itself to accommodate human physiology. First contact with the abandoned. The interior of the alien ship was breathtaking. The corridors were illuminated by some kind of bioluminescent material embedded in the walls, creating patterns that seemed to shift and flow as they walked. The architecture defied human understanding, with rooms that seemed larger inside than outside and passages that curved in impossible directions. "The artificial gravity is perfect," Dr. Park noted, checking his instruments. "Somehow they've created a gravitational field that feels exactly like Earth normal." They found the first alien bodies in what appeared to be a control room. The beings were tall and slender, with elongated limbs and large heads that housed clearly advanced brains. Their skin had a metallic sheen, and they were wearing what looked like form-fitting environmental suits. Lieutenant Commander Kim approached one of the bodies carefully. "They're not decomposed at all. It's like they just stopped." Sarah was examining the control stations, which were covered in the same flowing symbols they had seen on the hull. "James, look at this. These aren't just control panels. There's some kind of interface that responds to thought patterns." Dr. Park joined her, running his hands over the smooth surfaces. As he touched one panel, it suddenly came to life, displaying what were clearly star charts and navigation data. "It's responding to you," Sarah said excitedly. "Try to access their communications logs." What they found in the ship's memory banks changed their understanding of everything. The alien race called themselves the Viridian Collective, and they hadn't come to conquer Earth at all. They had been fleeing the true enemy. The data logs were partially corrupted, but Sarah and James managed to piece together the story. The Viridian Collective had been running from something called the Void Builders, an ancient machine intelligence that had been consuming civilizations across the galaxy for millions of years. "Look at this," Sarah said, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas where the Void Builders had already consumed entire star systems. They're working their way through the spiral arms, leaving nothing behind. The Viridian logs showed that their fleet had been part of a larger exodus from their homeworlds. Hundreds of civilizations were fleeing ahead of the Void Builders, looking for safe places to establish new colonies. Earth's solar system had been identified as a potential refuge because of its location on the outer rim of the galaxy. Dr. Park studied the technical specifications in the alien databases. According to this, the Void Builders don't just destroy civilizations, they consume them completely. They break down matter at the quantum level and convert it into more machines. Lieutenant Commander Kim found tactical information that was even more disturbing. The Viridians had weapons that could destroy planets, and they still couldn't fight these things. Look at this battle record. A fleet of 10,000 Viridian ships was destroyed by just 3 Void Builder units. But the most shocking discovery came when Sarah accessed the final log entries. They detected something when they reached Mars orbit. The Void Builders were already here. The logs showed that the Viridian fleet had arrived at Mars only to discover that Void Builder scouts had been operating in the solar system for centuries, hidden on Mars itself. Rather than fight a hopeless battle, the Viridians had chosen to shut down their ships completely, hoping the Void Builders would ignore them as lifeless debris. The hidden threat. Torres gathered her team for an emergency meeting aboard the Endeavour. "So let me understand this correctly. These aliens weren't invading Earth. They were running from something worse. And that something worse is already here." Dr. Park nodded grimly. According to the Viridian data, Void Builder scouts have been using Mars as a staging area for over 300 years. They've been slowly cataloging every planet in the solar system, including Earth. Sarah pulled up the scan data they had gathered. The good news is that the main Void Builder force hasn't arrived yet. The scouts are relatively small, maybe 50 units total. The bad news is that even the scouts have technology far beyond anything the Viridians possessed. Lieutenant Commander Kim studied the tactical information. "Why haven't they attacked Earth already?" "Because they're thorough," James explained. "The Void Builders don't just destroy, they optimize. They study each civilization completely before consuming it, learning everything they can to make the process more efficient." Sarah made a connection that chilled everyone. "That means they've been watching us, studying human civilization for centuries. They know everything about us, our technology, our tactics, our psychology." The team returned to the alien ship to gather more information. In the deeper sections, they found something that gave them hope. Detailed technical specifications for Viridian weapons and defensive systems. The aliens had been more advanced than the Void Builders in some areas, particularly in energy manipulation and quantum engineering. Humanity's opportunity. Dr. Park was studying the Viridian weapon designs when he made an incredible discovery. Sarah, look at this. The Viridians were trying to develop a quantum disruptor that could interfere with void builder machinery. They never finished it, but the theoretical framework is here. Sarah examined the data. This is amazing. It's based on principles we've actually been working on at Earth. Our quantum research isn't as advanced as theirs, but we've been approaching the problem from a completely different angle. Torres saw the possibility immediately. Are you saying we might be able to complete their weapon? More than that, James said excitedly. Human technology is more chaotic, less refined than Viridian systems. The Void Builders have been studying organized, logical civilizations for millions of years. They might not be prepared for our more creative approach to problem solving. They spent the next week aboard the Viridian ships, downloading everything they could access. The aliens had extensive databases on hundreds of different civilizations, technologies that spanned millions of years of development, and most importantly, detailed intelligence on Void Builder capabilities and weaknesses. Lieutenant Commander Kim made another crucial discovery in the tactical databases. The Void Builders have a fatal flaw. They're a collective intelligence. They share information instantaneously across vast distances. But that same connection makes them vulnerable to certain types of quantum interference. Sarah understood immediately. If we could disrupt their collective network, even temporarily, it would blind them to coordinated attacks. Torres made the decision to return to Earth immediately. They had found something more valuable than just intelligence on an alien threat. They had found the tools to fight back. The transformation. The return journey to Earth took 5 weeks, during which the team worked constantly to understand and adapt the Viridian technology. By the time they reached Earth, they had developed preliminary plans for weapons that could actually threaten the Void Builders. General Webb met them personally at the space dock. Captain Torres, please tell me you have good news. Sir, we have the best news possible. We can win this fight. The next 6 months saw the most intensive technological development in human history. Using Viridian designs and human innovation, Earth's scientists created weapons and defenses that neither civilization could have developed alone. The quantum disruptor was perfected and mounted on spacecraft throughout the solar system. Planetary defense grids were established using Viridian energy shields powered by human fusion reactors. Dr. Sarah Chen, now leading the combined Human Viridian Technology Project, made regular reports to the Global Defense Council. The Void Builders are still on Mars, still watching and cataloging, but they don't know we've discovered them. When their main fleet arrives, they'll expect to face primitive humans with early spaceflight capability. Instead, they'll face a prepared enemy with weapons designed specifically to exploit their weaknesses. Captain Torres was placed in command of the New Earth Defense Fleet, ships that combine human tactical thinking with Viridian technology. The irony, she told her officers, is that the Viridians came here running from the Void Builders, but they've given us the tools to make humanity the Void Builders' worst nightmare. The Galactic Defenders. 1 year after the first alien ships had appeared in Earth's skies, the Void Builder main fleet finally arrived. 3 massive vessels, each one the size of a small moon, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Behind them came thousands of smaller ships, ready to begin the systematic consumption of everything in the solar system. But instead of the primitive civilization they expected, they found Earth's defense fleet waiting for them. The quantum disruptors activated simultaneously, severing the Void Builders' collective consciousness for the first time in millions of years. Blind and confused, the ancient machines found themselves facing weapons they had never encountered before. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, the Void Builder fleet was destroyed, and humanity had won its first victory in a war it never knew it was fighting. News of the victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The refugees fleeing ahead of the Void Builders received signals from Earth, transmitted using Viridian communication technology. For the first time in millions of years, someone had successfully fought back against the ancient threat. Within months, representatives from dozens of civilizations were arriving at Earth. The Viridian Collective awakened their dormant fleet and joined the growing alliance. Humanity found itself at the center of a galactic coalition, providing not just military leadership, but the chaotic creativity that made victory possible. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen of the Galactic Defense Force, stood on the bridge of the flagship as fleets from 100 worlds gathered around Earth. "A year ago, we thought we were about to be conquered," she told her mixed human and alien crew. "Instead, we've become the defenders of the galaxy." General Webb, now Secretary General of the Galactic Alliance, smiled as he watched the diverse fleets training together in Earth orbit. "The Void Builders made one critical mistake," he said. "They underestimated humanity's greatest strength, our ability to turn any situation to our advantage." The war against the Void Builders would continue for years, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as conquerors or victims, but as the unlikely saviors who had united the galaxy against an ancient evil. The species that had once feared invasion had become the hope of countless civilizations across the cosmos.